Thank you everyone for joining us on this CFO Econnect today. I am Neha Mandal from Corptive Research and I'll be your host for today. Corptive Research has been raising awareness on corporate finance issues and best practices in risk management, cybersecurity, M&A and corporate finance. We started in the fall of 2016 with the aim of becoming a global leader platform for knowledge dissemination. Over the last 3 years, it has been an exciting journey from a training role to playing an active role in educating and spreading awareness about water, safety, security, and finance-related issues. Our delegate expects to hear from industry's best practitioners, technology providers, can get in direct contact with the regulators and stimulate high-level discussion with peers. Our focus is increasingly on bringing the latest technologies and the best practices in urban innovation planning via a series of webinars, trainings, and conferences. Our aim is to bring the entire community together of consultants, think tanks, and the policymakers, the technology providers via these virtual conferences, trainings, and webinars. I'm grateful to all of you for joining us today on this CFO Econnect. CFO Econnect webinar is a flagship online event for finance professionals from leading corporates and government segment. The webinar is based on the discussions around the changing role of technology in finance world and how the risk management practices are shaping. It is about the collective learning from the leading CFO across different verticals. The idea is to disseminate this cumulative learning and intelligence so that the other leading finance professionals can take a note and apply those lessons. From today's program, we have a keynote from Mr. Krishnan Ramachandran, followed by 2 exciting panel discussions, risk management lessons for finance post-COVID-19, and we'll be discussing and covering various topics like how risk management needs to realign itself to new realities of post-COVID-19 world, how the financial institutions to become robust and resilient in post-COVID-19 era, what is the new normal and how companies are adapting the changes, new business models. We have some very popular speakers joining us today. We are grateful to all of you joining us on this webinar today. Let me now invite Mr. Krishnan Ramachandran. Krishnan Ramachandran is SVP and India CFO for Hinduja Global and is a very popular and well-known name in the world of finance. Krishnan has 25 years of experience in finance, covering accounting, consolidation, automation, and audits. Our statutory reporting, business finance, including MIS, budgeting, pricing, treasury. He is a tech-savvy finance professional having good experience in automating a lot of activities in the areas of finance. He is previously worked with HCL BPO, WNS Global Services, MESA, GSE, and Scient Limited. We look forward to hearing his views on this topic. Over to you, sir.
Hi.
Hi, sir.
Thank you for inviting me for this wonderful event. I am happy to be part of this and also look forward to some insightful and meaningful discussions with other panelists. I hope I can be seen and heard clearly.
Yes, sir, you are very clear. And thank you, sir, for coming over. It is a pleasure to have you.
Well, so all of us have witnessed the entire COVID pandemic phase in the world. I think all of us embraced the new normal together. Well, some picked it up very fast, some picked it up a little later, some started preparing to work from home as pilot projects, and they probably could adapt well. And we at HGS similarly started adapting the new normal, or trying to adapt the new normal without really envisioning this situation to come like this. We sort of just wanted to see how the work from home model will work, and started this with our shared services as a test, and then that sort of helped us adapt and adopt quickly. As all of us understand now, everything has become a new normal, and in the COVID times, the COVID has really taught us a lot of lessons. I think this is the second wave. The first wave, we saw a similar kind of technological advancement when the demonetization happened. It was quite insightful to see how suddenly Paytm came up, and how the tea vendors started getting us payment in a wireless manner. We all went cashless, and we adapted the new technology. And on a similar note, here I think the application of technology has increased suddenly with a lot of things coming up. The new way of having webinars and seminars like this, children learning online, multiple platforms coming in, whether it is for having meetings or trainings, or to meet with each other, also to transact. I think there have been a lot of wallets that have come in. While we had the Uber and Olas and Oyos of the world, all of that has suddenly taken a leap in terms of its application, usage, and adaptability. I also feel a lot of focus, especially among the new generation, the new era, has also increased manifold. Children have started learning a lot of technology, which otherwise would have been a slow adaptation. Teachers have coped up, in terms of coming up with digitization and digital method of teaching various stuff. They have come up with uploading a lot of stuff in order to coach these students. So across the adaptation of the technological adoption of technology has increased multifold. Organizations have successfully been able to convince their clients in terms of how they can deliver without disruption. In fact, in our case, there has been a significant increase in productivity. There have been a sudden demand in the way we do things. For example, in the finance world, tracking assets that are deployed for business is quite important. And if you see, now everybody wants to track assets. Earlier, we used to use simple tools, whereas now while the technology existed, the adoption of the technology has increased manifold. Everybody wants to have real-time trackers of assets. Similarly, if you look at many other things, if you want to adopt technology to a great extent, obviously that will also come with a lot of cybersecurity. So cybersecurity risk management therefore becomes quite important. Similarly, adoption of various networks, broadband, there has to be a lot of stuff in terms of securing the financial data. The way financial institutions are operating has significantly changed. And with all of this, the CFO operations have also changed. I think all of this are here and for us to sort of live with. In fact, whether the pandemic goes or not, but I guess the technology adoption and adaptation and the new ways of how we work will only increase. So with this insight, I would like to hand over to Neha to invite the panelists for discussion.
Thank you, Krishnan sir, for your opinion and expertise. Your opinion will, I hope, surely help the young minds to understand and to have that vision and the think tanks to plan their strategies ahead, of course. And I'm grateful for you to have an immediate acceptance for the keynote speaker. Now I would like to invite our panelists for the panel, Sustainable Management via Digital Practices. It's a wonderful panel with the speakers from different sectors. Our panelist is Krishnan Ramachandran. We'll be just listening from him. So our panelists should be ready for some in-depth question. He is being joined by Mr. Manas Datta, who is the Group CFO of Wockhardt. Along with him, we have Mr. Vikash Sureka, CFO IBS Software, and Vijay Vaishnav, CFO Eros International. This panel is being moderated by Mr. Amitesh Sinha for CFO SIMA Funds. With these esteemed guests, I'll believe that Mr. Amitesh, I would like to invite Mr. Amitesh to take over the panel discussion. Over to you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Neha. Thanks a lot for all the introduction, and thank you, Krishnan, for all the useful insights for us and for many other audience who are part of this webinar. So I thank Neha and Corptive Research for having us. So we have a fantastic panel across industries. We have folks from healthcare, pharmaceutical. We have people from software. We have people from digital media. So to begin this panel, I would just like to introduce myself. My name is Amitesh. I'm a CFO and partner at SIMA Funds. Apart from managing the finance function, I'm responsible for managing one of their funds, developing it. I will not go into too much details, but I would just quickly share some of my experiences, what we have gone through in the COVID, and then I'll let the panel introduce themselves and share some insights. So SIMA Funds primarily invest into solar and microfinance, and you all know that microfinance has been one of the industry which was impacted because of regulatory aspects in India and somewhere in the world as well, where there was moratorium and there was some relaxation given in terms of how the borrowers will pay back to the banks and the financial institutions. But that brought in a little bit of a mismatch between the equity and the debt, created a little bit of mismatch there and a liquidity crisis. We have seen a lot of other changes happening in the way the funds are operating, right from doing the on-site diligence where you get to know the company well, where you meet the management and see the operation on the ground. And there have been some challenges around that, and we are still trying to figure out how to overcome that. There have been few innovative ways of where you can do virtual due diligences and things like that, but I think it's a long way to go. And we are evolving, especially when it comes to the financial institution. And I would just end my remark here that one of the key aspects is for the financial institutions are driven by the external and the regulatory factors. We all know that, the 2-year moratorium is sub judice right now, and Supreme Court is hearing about that, and we'll see how that shapes up. And that's going to be a very critical aspect for all of us in India to see how the mismatch of liquidity and the earning which financial institutions have gone through in past 6 to 7 months, how that gap is filled. So now with this, I will hand over to Krishnan. He has already introduced, but I think if he can add a little more flavor on his industry and give a brief about what he thinks about all this and how he has overcome, and then we will go around the horn and talk to the other panelists.
Thanks, Amitesh. So I'm from Hinduja Global Solutions Limited. Hinduja Global Solutions Limited is a public listed company, and we are primarily into third-party international BPO segment, and also focusing more on improving our digital capabilities and offerings. Primarily, a major portion of our revenue is from the healthcare sector, and we also have other sectors where we cater, especially in the US market, in Canada, Jamaica, UK. We are also strongly based in Philippines and India. The delivery centers, while we have onshore and offshore, but the bulk of the offshore is from Philippines and India. And as I said, since we are basically more into healthcare and digital, the pandemic luckily did not really affect us. In fact, it has only given us more opportunities, and we see that as a very strong opportunity, and we're trying to really help at the same time grow. We have traditionally been, the company has always been quite positive when it comes to adoption of technology and technology practices. a lot of automation within the company, looking at being efficient always. So what happened was, since we were also we also have a team that deploys RPA practices for our clients, and therefore to adapt and adopt the new normal was not as difficult as it was thought out to be. In fact, our productivity has increased, and we are doing a great job. So we could basically adopt all industry new practices like artificial intelligence, take some cue from machine learning, and improve our offerings across the sectors that we serve. So with that, over to you, Amitesh.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot, Krishnan. As always, your insights are very useful. Now, I'll just ask Manas to introduce himself and share some of the insights of what has happened in terms of his industry and how they have come up with. So just Manas, welcome, and just share some of the insights with the group.
Thank you, Amitesh. Thank you, Krishnan, and my co-panelists. A very good evening to everybody who is listening and watching this webinar. My name is Manas Datta. I represent a group called Wockhardt. It's a familiar name to all of us. I'm their global CFO. I look after the 21 countries from US to Australia. So what a pandemic, and being into pharma and healthcare, what a pandemic could be that I have seen it in my personal eyes from majority of the countries. Interestingly, some of them are still struggling. Some of them have come out with God's grace. Two things. I will not take much time on getting into what we do and what we don't. But two things is that, a lot of us, I think for the last 6 months, have looked into the way we were working. I think this is being a kind of a trouble which probably the human civilization has never ever seen, at least to the historically proven time period. So for the last 300 years, we have not seen. Before that, I'm not very sure of this kind of pandemic. But one thing was very clear, that this pandemic has given us two completely different opportunities. One is that look de novo. We have completed M&A deal. We have completed financing deal. I'm already in the process of raising some money internationally. Team is working. I cannot even think of that in the morning. I'm speaking to Australia, in the afternoon to Shahjahanpur in India, then Thrissur in South India, then Punjab, and then in the afternoon to UK and the late night in US. On a single day, meeting and doing that was unprecedented, and I think there was nothing better than that. So we should not be unnecessarily perturbed about pandemic. Some industry will always have a trouble, but before the pandemic, before these opportunities and whatever has happened, I take 1 minute pause and would like to salute all my, I will say angels of the healthcare services and pharmaceutical services, those who stood by us, including the doctors, the paramedics, the nurses, even the police, even the fire brigade, people on the street. It was an unprecedented time. So we generally all talk about here about digital, AI, RPA, automation. Come on, I think till the time we are there in the world, these things will continue to be there. But we must be there in the world. And these people have done a fascinating job. So hats off to them. We will speak about it, of our learning of the new normals. But I think it's better that we go ahead with Vikas and Vijay. They have also to share their side of the story. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Manas. And I think you have raised a very great point, which I'll come to you in terms of dealing with people in 4 different continents in a day. I know what you're talking about, and I think we would love to know more and learn more about it. So with this, I will request Vikas to unmute and introduce and share some insights on your experience with this pandemic.
Yeah, great. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. And Manas, first of all, the salute that you gave to all the angels and health workers and police, etc. I totally relate to that. I mean, without them, I don't think we'll be here, right? So that's very well said. So thank you, Amitesh, and also the organizers for having me on the panel discussion. Absolute pleasure to talk and share my experience and also learn from my co-panelists as well, right? Just a quick background about, I'm the CFO of IBS. I take care of the entire finance operations, legal operation, company affairs of the company globally. We are a enterprise software company, and our vision really is to redefine the future of travel through technology innovation. We are actually a leading SaaS provider for the travel industry globally. So you can imagine, we are kind of in the storm right now, right? And we operate in about 40 countries, and we have customers across the world in various sectors, predominantly in airlines, cruise lines, airports, hotels, and tour operators, all of which is highly disrupted as this world, right? But our goal remains, that is to transform how travel companies operate in a digital world by delivering our next generation software products, right? So that's really how we operate, right? And frankly, from a COVID perspective, I mean, we reacted pretty much how the entire world did. We hadn't expected the sudden escalating of the crisis, and the countries, suddenly going in lockdown within a few days, right? But being in travel space, it is not very different for us in the sense that we are used to disruptions. We have always talked about the VUCA world, which really means about volatile nature of the world, uncertainty, complex, ambiguous, and in some sense, we are kind of prepared for such events. The only thing I think we were not prepared was the size and scale of this. How suddenly it all snowballed into a global event, right? And we actually really thought that many of our customers, given that they are highly leveraged, could very quickly go out of business. Which really also questions their own survivability. So between March and June, I would say we acted swiftly and took decisive decisions on a number of areas impacting our employees, customer, financial management, particularly cash flows and liquidity. These were our key focus, right? And thankfully, we've run the company quite prudently over the last couple of decades, and we are not heavily leveraged, which kind of helped us, overcome the crisis quite better, right? While the crisis is still not over, we are in the middle of it. But the learning that we have seen in the last 6 months, right, gives us a confidence that we'll be able to do very good things for the industry and our customers in general. And one other learning that we have had in this period really is, we really thought that this crisis is like a short term. We thought it was 2 months, all lockdowns, everything will be over, then everything will be back to normal, right? Uh, that clearly is not going to happen. Our clear view now is that it's probably 2 to 5 years before everything comes back to normal. Obviously, some industry will come back faster, but industry like travel will take a lot of time to recover, and therefore we need to really dig in deep and think about the future in a long-term perspective. And only other learning that we have beyond that is the pandemic has actually accelerated many of the things, especially the digital adaptation, right? Like Manas mentioned, he speaks to like 5 different time zones in the day. That is true for many of us as well, right? Everything is come closer. The world is come to your home. So you can talk to everybody at any point in time. So all of that, I think, is helping us really redefine the future and shape the future as we go forward. I hope that gives you some perspective in terms of how we are thinking.
No, you have raised some interesting point, Vikas. We'll come back to that. So I will welcome Vijay, first of all, and good to see you on the screen. So why don't you go ahead and introduce and share some of and you come from an interesting, sector where you have insights where you're already digital and you've become more digital. So we'd love to know more what's happening in your world.
Hey, hi, good afternoon. So what's happening with us is, first of all, I'm alive. So that is more important this year. So whenever someone asks me, how are you? So I'm saying, my only answer is this, that I'm alive. So yeah, 2020 is all about, remaining alive and, getting it going. So for us, it's been very important year. We, in a way, in a sarcastic way, we welcomed this pandemic because it grew our subscription by 3x, grew our viewership by 10x. So from a business standpoint, it was a welcome way of, a pandemic. But what has happened is that pre-COVID itself, we were, into this digitization and concept right from day one, where the physical presence and physical distribution of papers and anything which is related and physical in nature had to be, do away with. So what we have done is that the question of work from home concept, we had already initiated pre-COVID and started questioning whether we want all the resources in the office. So pre-COVID itself, we had decided that the kind of resources that we want, physically present kind of resources we don't want, and we had initiated that process itself. Pandemic only allowed us to do it quicker. Likewise, for us, everything is digital. So we do not see our customers, right? Because customers come on a platform, they buy the product, pay it online. So everything is online for us. Through various other tools that we have implemented like AI, ML, we understand the flavor of the customer, what customer likes, what customer dislikes, and accordingly we place our content on a platform and the consumption happens. So we were into almost 90% tools that we were using pre-COVID. We introduced few more tools. Now somewhere we are working on making it more hyper personalization for our customers, where customers moment any new content comes, we exactly know which customer would love to watch this, and accordingly a communication goes either through notification, chat box, or emails. So likewise, for us, pandemic has been a blessing, and from here we are looking ahead of making it grow from here. From media and entertainment perspective, because we were already into digital, currently the non-traditional, as in the traditional business of media and entertainment, like the movie production, the TV production, is taking a bit of time, and it's going to take some time to come to a level where everything, the TRPs and the ad revenues are back. So the traditional media will still take some time, but the new age media, which is the digital one, has been very good for us.
Thanks a lot, Vijay. So I think you have raised a very interesting point in your subscription growing up by, did I hear correctly? Was it 10x?
2x.
2x.
Consumption going up by 10x.
Consumption going by 10x. So I think, so that raises a very interesting question with, as we say that with larger returns come the larger responsibility. So let me connect a question here, and maybe you can just give us a flavor of how you are trying to do and how you are trying to, operate in your way. So with increased subscription, I'm sure the customer service and the customer demand, expectation will be going up, and to channelize and maintain that traffic, you need additional infrastructure and background support with your IT and tech. So can you just share your experience in terms of how you are managing that growth when it comes to meeting the customer expectation, be it from the content creation, be it from managing the tech part of it, and of course the customer queries and their resolutions?
So yeah, what is very important over here is that being in digital media, we exactly get to know what customer likes. So recently we launched a new show called Flesh, right? So we exactly knew that what kind of customer is going to come on the platform. There's going to be spike in the consumption. So accordingly, our backend has to be working efficiently in throwing the content to the right people. So first, which content to introduce is something that the technology help us. Okay, there is a demand for this kind of content, there's a demand for that kind of content. Accordingly, we make content. Now, once the content is being made, placing the content, making it, marketing it digitally is also second thing that we focus on. And once that thing, happens, we launch the content and there is a spike in the subscription. So our data backend and front end, the technology itself is being, worked in a way where any spike on a particular day, within a day or in a month is being taken care of with the kind of infra that we have built. So there will be no surprises. It's just that we need to, communicate the same to our vendors and they would take care of any spike happening in the platform. Likewise, any consumer coming on the platform, if they have any kind of queries or any kind of mentioning any kind of disturbance that they are facing, they just have to use a chat box. They have emailers over there. So communication on those kind of platform, there is a defined tag that we have maintained, and ensuring that the customers queries get solved and resolved in an appropriate time. So likewise, we ensure that customers query, customers, if suppose, for example, if customer is not able to install an app, right? So we exactly get to know that this person had faced a problem, a technical glitch, and they were not able to install the app. Likewise, if the content is not being able to play, so we exactly get the notification, okay, this customer at this place was not able to view the content. So we intimate that person through a notification saying that now the glitch is out, you can watch the content, and the content is up and live. So likewise, a real-time resolution to our customer needs is something that we have been focusing pre-COVID also. But post-COVID, what we have done is we have enhanced our customer service more with introducing new tools. We have done away with our call center resolution. It's all chat box, all everything and anything online to all the customer resolutions.
Thanks a lot, Manas. I think being on the digital side of things, you have to build a very good AI and ML to kind of support not only customer service, but I think a lot of things on the platform. So thanks a lot for sharing this. Krishnan, would you like to share some insights on this as well in terms of managing the customer expectation and the customer service and satisfaction?
Can I be heard?
Now, yes.
Yes. Thanks. So basically, something similar to what Vijay said. Being in the BPO industry, we typically keep getting volume predictions from our customers in terms of how and what things would look like in the immediate 3 months, because managing a BPO with about 45,000 employees needs abundant planning. So, and you would also know that the attrition rate in the industry is pretty high. But what we have seen is post-COVID, that is it has caught up to a significant extent. But still, attrition remains, in thousands. So obviously, planning becomes a lot more important, and therefore we have the insight in terms of what our future volumes are going to be, and accordingly, the entire planning happens. What has happened is also as I said, the adaptation of the technology practices, and also getting people trained on working on various devices and using it from home, getting the customer permissions, dealing with the Department of Telecom to get their clearances. So we are more on the regulatory side. We had to do a lot of preparation there initially. But since we were sort of preparing, we knew what are the steps required, and therefore we were swift to act in terms of getting those clearances. And also we started training the employees to a great extent. Now, what is important is, while we all have the tools like, bring your own device, the 5G network, the GBPS, broadband, all of that is there. But security becomes quite important, and to secure financial data, secure customer data becomes quite important. And therefore, what we also do is constant communication with everybody, whether it is employees, whether it is vendors, whether it is customers. We have a constant communication with them to ensure the do's and don'ts, especially things like, use a secure connection. When you work from home, do not connect to an unsecure public Wi-Fi. Do not share data and information, from the home computer or with personal devices. Make sure your computer has the latest applications. Create new and strong passwords, and use only approved cloud applications. Avoid storing or printing paper documents. These kind of communication and training, the entire employee segment, vendor segment, customer segment becomes quite important. So we do it in a very structured manner with regular interactions and advisory across, and also prepare quite in advance for the next 3 months. And that is how we adapt to the customer demand and increase in growth. And as I said, what the outcome of all of that has witnessed a significant increase in productivity and performance of the company.
Yeah, thanks, Krishnan. I think you have raised some of the issues in terms of managing the DOT and the other compliances. I think we'll touch upon that how you are dealing with that, and how, see the regulatory aspect changing in India, whether it is, going to be a temporary change or whether it's going to be a permanent change, which, will impact the business model in the long run. So let me switch a little bit of gears, going back and trying to understand. So maybe let me ask Manas in terms of the pharma industry, to see what is the new normal. We all know, we have been talking about new normal. I think the travel is on the other side where it is getting impacted in a different way. And then we have pharma who have a lot of pressure. And I think, if we talk about the, the doctors, the paramedics and nurses and the other people on the ground, I think the second eyes goes on the people who are working on creating vaccines or coming up with new medications and etc. So I think pharma is on a very limelight, and it has been most talked about in last 5 to 6 months, to see how the industry is evolving. So Manas, would you like to share what is the shift in the industry, and what do you see? What's the new normal for you in terms of the business operations, in terms of what you see as a radical shift in terms of the strategy? If you could share some of the insights from your experience.
Interesting point, Amitesh, and you are absolutely factually and strategically right that pharma is in limelight now. But there were two questions to pharma industry. I will not talk much about healthcare right now, but in this, there were at the very beginning of the lockdown, which is sometime in end of March and till say probably of mid of April. It was all about supply chain getting into the production back into the place, and particularly not only in India, my manufacturing facilities in Chicago, in Wrexham in the UK, or in Dublin in Ireland. Everything went into an initial stoppage for almost say 2 to 3 weeks. But then we started learning how to come back. Good part is that the pharma is a regulated industry, so naturally, even otherwise, as a normal SOP, the human safety norms were quite in an advanced stage. So what we did is that we made sure that whomsoever is coming to the office are coming only when it is really needed, right? Whether it is in manufacturing, distribution, support services, IT, and the very, very essential services. So that took about 2 to 3 weeks. Some part of India also went into a trouble. That's because the local, the regulatory, administrative, bodies like panchayats or the municipal corporation, they have told people not to move out, and quite naturally, so we lost some kind of a business opportunity and manufacturing opportunity. Globally, the supply from international locations and export to India for almost 3 weeks were almost zero, right? So it was a drastically different situation. But then I think mid of April onwards, we started doing our businesses. I call it as 3 R's. We adopted 3 R for river. What we adopted is that the R number 1 is response. Respond to the situation, right? Whatever it is, not reacting to the situation, but responding to the situation. Point number 2, apart from the response, we said resolve. Now, whatever we can resolve, we resolve it, be it the operating issues, supply chain, cash flows. We started conserving cashes, right? Make the variable cost more, moving away from the fixed cost, looking into all the contractual obligations where there can be the supply side penalties, and so on and so forth. So all the covenants were being again re-looked into. So that was the responding. The last R is restore. So restoration is still under process. I can also tell you that one thing is that, while everybody is talking of the new normals, in this world, probably this will be an unprecedented situation. World has 7 billion people. And if I go by today's scientific data, it needs 2 dosage form of vaccination for each and everybody. So about 14 to 15 billion dosage form to be manufactured, then dispatched, put it into the supply chain, and even doctors or the administrators has to administer it to the human body. I think in this world, never ever we have seen it. You know that even for SARS, even for H1N1 or the Zika or Ebola, this was not of this level of a transaction. So it will be a completely different set in the future. It's a long way to go. The clinical trials will take place. I hope that it's approved faster, the majority of the cases. But the new normal for us is only one normal. Go back and do what we were doing. So it's not something very different in terms of operation. In terms of financial side, I talked about it, but we did a M&A deal by sitting at home. We did a fundraising, which is in multi-million dollars, means I'm talking hundreds, that we are in the final stage of doing. One part, before I hand it over back to you, if I don't say that, that will be very, very important. In this 6 months' time, I think the biggest trouble I have seen is the people working from home. It's not that they don't have their facility, don't have their Wi-Fi's, don't have their laptops or anything. It's the managing home, children, parents, grandparents, right, pets, and then managing work. And we are very gender neutral organization. About more than 30% of our staff are women. And it's not a women at a lower end of the workforce. It is at a very high end of the workforce, and they have done a stupendous amount of job managing kids, managing family, the elderlies in the home, and then responding and restoring back to the work. I think hats off to them. This is the first time in life probably I have seen that work eye to eye, shoulder to shoulder, without any kind of, I'm not exaggerating, any kind of compromise on anything. I'm not exaggerating. Again, just to put on record, even people came back and told me that I'm unwell, please allow me for a day's leave. While I was not even knowing that whether he or she is working from home or not. People showed that much of ethical level of governance that I didn't even know that somebody is unwell, but writing me a mail saying that I'm unwell and I'm not working, please allow me for a day. What else you need? I think this is the new normal. A practice, a transparency, getting into, make sure that we work. I'm very positive. I'm very positive for the outcome of the COVID-19 vaccines, the way the world has worked. I can resonate of some of my co-panelists here. I also used to work for the Oberoi Group, the hospitality major, before joining Wockhardt. So I understand that the travel, tourism, and particularly super luxury businesses, how it gets affected. This was first and last in the curve of the economic upturn and downturn. So I appreciate that. But my feel, somebody has said it is 2 to 5 years. My feel that it may not be that much. Maybe I'm sorry, I'm disagreeing to that. Maybe 3 to 4 quarters. I feel that there will be an issue. We will find it out and wait. And that's what is my take from this. Sorry for a little elongated version of the story. I'm sorry.
Manas, I think you might get quoted in the TOI tomorrow when giving such a positive, view on.
I sincerely believe it. Trust me, I sincerely believe it. The way people responded, and from there I believe it. It's not otherwise. It's not me, you, or anybody. Everybody responded to it.
Yeah,
that's
that coming from a leader from that pharma industry makes us, feel much better. And I think I totally, there's no second thoughts in terms of how the productivity has increased when people have started working from home. There are challenges which I think people are learning and evolving. This is something new which they have not done it in their past 5 years, 10 years, 15 years of career, but now they're doing it. I think it will evolve over a period of time. It's just 7 months, and it might be like to a stage where it is even more efficient and more productive. And I think, congrats on the deals which you have done on the M&A side. And I think we all learned that, we can do deals worth 15 to 16,000 crores, or even I think, sorry, I'm misquoting that number. I think 15 to 16 billion dollar deals sitting at home with, Reliance and a couple of others, which we have heard. So I think it has become a known thing. So I'll switch gears and maybe I will ask Vikash to add some of the elements of the new normal, because you're serving an industry which has been the most impacted. So we heard about pharma, which is the new normal is their normal, what it was, and going back to what they were doing with even more force and energy. So because if you could share something, what's the new normal which you're seeing in the industry which you are serving?
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, even Manas touched upon this, right? I mean, our industry, especially travel industry, is the first to get impacted and will be the last to really come out. The day travel industry comes back to pre-COVID, we can say the pandemic is over, right? Otherwise, it's not over, yeah? And from that perspective, I mean, if I just give you a context of the travel industry itself, it's a very large sector. Annually, about $10 trillion is spent in this industry, and it contributes about 10% of the global GDP. And pre-COVID, this industry is to grow at about 4%, right? Contrast that with the current scenario where survivability in the industry has become a big issue. Across the world, you're seeing airlines, cruise lines, ship lines, right? They're unable to sail or fly, and you're seeing tens and thousands of job losses that is happening, right? Including furloughs that is happening across the world, right? But one good thing about the industry is, it is a battle-tested industry in the sense that disruptions are not new in this industry. Every 3 years, every 5 years, you'll hear, there's a 9/11, there's a SARS, there's a MERS, there's Ebola, then there's an ash cloud, there's economic crisis. Any global event that happens, the first impact is always on the travel industry. And to that extent, they are kind of battle-tested to kind of overcome a disruption like that. Of course, the size and scale of this one is vastly different. And therefore, currently, most of the players in this industry are highly dependent on government support and fiscal stimulus that, various authorities are giving to them. Without that, they will not survive, frankly, because it's very tough to be a travel operator in this industry, because if you look at any airline or a cruise line, it's a high capex model, right? And given the high capex model, they're always over leveraged on their balance sheet. They always will have long-term debts running for 10, 20 years, right? And they also have very high fixed costs because most of the cost comes from fuel and staff. And these tends to be fixed and also volatile depending on how things pan out. On top of that, the industry also is, very price sensitive. The consumers in the industry are always, they want a good deal, right? Be it you want to take a flight or a hotel, you're always looking for a cheap deal. And that makes the entire industry very stiff in terms of competition and price sensitivity. And to top it all, this industry is always plagued with a very unique problem. It has excess capacity. And the inventory, if you can't sell it, it goes lost forever. I mean, you can't, if 10 seats in a plane go vacant, that inventory is lost forever. So therefore, a very challenging environment for the industry to kind of, overcome, right? But like I said, it is battle tested. And from our perspective, what we are like looking at strategies from a three-pronged way, right? One is, how do you survive? Second is, how do you stabilize? And then how do you emerge stronger? These are the three ways in which we are looking. Again, it's a long term for us. It's not no more short term. The first thing for us is really, looking at employee safety and productivity. Like a lot of people have said on the call already, right? The biggest beneficiary out of this is the employee, right? In terms of the trust factor that is like increased between the companies and the employees immense, right? Employees have allowed officers to come to their homes and they've been able to productively work, remove the entire supply side demand issues. Productivity has actually gone up, and they're also able to do many things that we otherwise thought is not possible to do from home, right? So therefore, that has become a kind of a new normal. Though I don't like to use the word new normal, I think it's evolution. Just COVID has accelerated the evolution, right? And then we'll learn to live with this type of things as we go forward. The second thing we've done is, how do you stabilize the business, right? Being a software company, hosting our software in various data centers across the world, our earlier approach really was, how do you go out and implement your software on site and customer site? So like many of our specialists is to fly out to various locations, implement the software for 12, 15, 18 months, because these are all mission critical software. Without them, the airlines or the cruise lines can't like really sail, right? But suddenly all of that had to be changed, and we now have to implement the entire software remotely, that too out of people's homes, right? And the entire collaboration between various players in the industry across the world, and trying to bring this together and still implement a mission critical software which can even jeopardize how the planes fly or a cruise line sails, has been like a breath of fresh air. And this is going to stay. The whole idea of traveling forever for corporate, trying to do things, I think all of that, I think, is going to really go away. People have realized the efficiency of using digital platforms, collaboration tools, and how you can be more productive, become more time efficient, and also take care of many other things that you are otherwise missing, right? Like Manas mentioned, right? For many people, managing the home, managing their kids, managing school, but still be productive in office was a huge challenge. All of that, I think the lines are getting blurred as we go forward. So that's another one. And the last thing is, how do we emerge stronger? For us, really, we see this as an opportunity as well, right? There are immense opportunity for us to like consolidate the industry, do a lot of M&A deals as we go forward. So we are looking at that as one of the growth avenues for us as we, go through this pandemic and come out of this stronger along with our customers. And the last message for us is really, there may be a bunch of people who can't survive this, but those who can survive will really be the strong guys, and they will become stronger as they go forward. So how do you identify and be the strong player in the market? How do you like envision that future and then invest and accordingly, grow, is really the way we are thinking.
No, thanks a lot, Manas. I think that's really important to see how the travel industry evolves. That's something that can't be done virtual. So that is something we all are seeing. We have seen a lot of improvisation as well, like work from some hotel or work from some homestays. We have seen all of that. So I think that's the evolution we will see of how it goes. So I think that's a long way to go. So we have talked many things about the changing play field. So let me rephrase this and ask Krishnan about the changing play field. Rather, if you can share one or two key aspects which has been very challenging when it comes to adoption of certain operation which has been introduced because of the whole pandemic and the way we are operating, and how have you tried to overcome it?
Thanks, Amitesh. See, fundamentally, I would let me channelize this more towards, since we have the CFO forums, let me bring in some challenges the CFOs have been facing, because I guess, from a business perspective and operations perspective, we have sort of found our way, as I said, by coming up with customer support as well as with the employee support. The CFOs have had to embrace technology to a large extent from what they used to do, right? So that is one. The second is, you can't change some of these deadlines. For example, you had to have your AGM within the timeline. You had to have your board meetings and quarterly results being published on a timely basis. The board meetings have to be now conducted. Earlier, it was all physical meetings, whereas now everything has to be done remotely, and you need to ensure that these are all properly recorded, properly filed. So we immediately had to sort of adopt the latest technology platforms, get everybody trained, do dry runs within ourselves, ensure that everything worked properly, including the recording mechanisms, and also be well prepared to do our filings in a proper manner. So this was one area where we sort of had to be better prepared. I'll say, I'll not like to use the word struggle, but we had to sort of prepare well. The other area, as I said, is now comes data security and all the security measures that we have had to put in, especially in our kind of industry where there are a lot of employees and so many employee devices being deployed. So data security becomes quite important. So we have had to resort to VDI in most of the devices, ensure that VPN connectivity is adhered to, and also tracking the assets have become a very important step, because we hear that in markets like the US, there is a tendency where people don't return the devices as they move on, and therefore, adoption of thin clients for employees, so that your losses are minimized, ensuring that you use good tracking, a system or a tool that tracks your assets in a very prompt manner. So basically using the latest technology from Google, so it can exactly track your assets in terms of which employee where, and so on and so forth. The other important thing is integration of all of whatever technology or whatever you implement into your core ERP system, because ultimately the impact of what you do has to reflect in your financial systems, and also ensure that the financial data is appropriate and the reporting is appropriate. So ensuring a tight and a seamless integration between various systems. And also we have tried to automate a lot of things, because we can't, being a public listed company, we can't afford to get delayed in our reporting timelines. And that therefore, also we have started looking at automating a lot of stuff that we do manually, and ensure that we do our closing on a timely basis. We get real-time reports so that decisions are faster. And as Manas said, or like Vikash said, I think over a period of time we are there, and I think over a period of time we'll also improve, also deploy a lot of newly available tools in the market. Like on the AI side, there are a lot of new vendors, as you will see, coming up with a lot of new solutions, out of box solutions, and those I think we need to adopt. Also train our employees, both on the finance side as well as on the non-finance side. Provide training to our vendors to meet up to our speed. So there is a lot going on, and I think it's a slow process but a sure process, and there is a lot to do yet, while we have done a lot when we compare what we did in the past, but I think there is a lot more to cover.
Yeah, thanks, Krishnan. So coming back to Vijay, just add, if you can add a little more on that point in terms of some of the challenges which you have seen. You already have that model, but still, with the increased traffic, how have you adapted to some of these challenges, and what has been the key challenge for you, and how
the
have you
biggest challenge, as I mentioned, was because we had to have a new content in place. So we need a team of 100 plus, going out to various locations and shooting the content and all that. So that has something, taken a stop. The good thing was that pre-COVID, we had, content library ready with us to get broadcasted on our platform. But over a period of time, we realized that, making more than 2 content in a month was becoming difficult because of this COVID. And then we happened to, have a SOP drafted for our production unit, where they had to follow a proper guidance in terms of, executing their work on the field. And that is something along with our consultant in place, helping them out to, get the shoot done right from first, shot to the last shot. So content shooting and making it was a difficult thing only. Post that, everything remains, sacrosanct and similar to what it was pre-COVID for us. But for the traditional media and entertainment background, because Eros does that portion also, we are somewhere, struggling with respect to, theaters being shut, right? So that is a kind of revenue which contributed almost 30 to 40% of the total revenue from a content. That is a hit that currently we are, going through. Otherwise, the all other aspect has remained the same for us, and we have been, totally guarded with respect to our content being safe on our servers, content being safe when it gets transmitted to the user's platform device, and whether the user can download the content, and once the content is downloaded, how long it can stay on their device. All that particular piece was already been taken care of. So content security, data security, and taking care of the spike in the consumption, all that particular aspect was already thought through and was implemented pre-COVID itself. So something of those sort is what we are looking at currently, is the content production piece, which we really need to up the meter, because we are looking at a 3 to 4 content per month cycle. And for that, we are obviously taking help of various other consultants who help us through making it this number being touched.
Yeah, you brought a very interesting point, Vijay, in terms of the maybe I would say it's scarcity of content, or maybe you're not able to develop as much as you want. So what do you think? Will this industry, in terms of going forward to avoid these kind of situations, will keep some inventory to come up with certain situations like this in future, or how do you see that going ahead?
As Manas mentioned, it is 1 in 300 years. So, and it's quite a lot of cost involved to make the content. So obviously not. We want the content to be there, and there for monetization purpose. So we will not hold on to the content. But what happens in the traditional TV business is that they have a good set of content ready, but not for, say, next 2-3 months. They have the content for next 2-3 weeks. That is the library time limit that they have. So what point can be thought through, but not at the scale at which we are operating. We make content of crores, and we want it to get monetized immediately.
Got it. All right. So I think with that, we have kind of completed the questions which we intended to ask such an esteemed speaker and certain expert in their own industry, and some people like Manas and Krishnan, who have like tons of experience. And sorry. Neha?
Yeah, sir. Good.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I was saying, we have like industry experts, and they have shared some of their interesting views. And I think, we were talking about something negative, and I think that the positive today is being negative. But what we heard from the expert is all good outlooks. Especially, I think I really like what Manav told in terms of the outlook of what he sees. And he explained us fantastically how the vaccine could work, and how it could be, and supply chain and the other logistical aspects have to be managed. So Neha, I don't see any questions yet.
Sir, I have few questions. There are a couple of questions that are being here from the participants, but I'll take only few of them, rather 1 or 2. So the first question. This is where companies do have a CTO, how CFO ensures the security and the management of the companies and the confidential data.
I think Krishnan has touched upon the data aspect. So maybe Krishnan, if you can just have a take on that.
Okay, sure. So basically, while traditionally the CFO and CTO had to always work hand in hand, I think what is important is for the CFO to now ensure a little more, walk a couple of steps more to understand what the CTO does and how far are those helping to protect the financial data. And if you see for the Indian publicly listed companies, we have something called internal controls on financial reporting, and that covers the IT application controls, IT general controls. It has got a various set of questionnaires that one has to go through, and also demonstrate how we ensure that the financial reporting is complete in entirety, and also that data has not been compromised with. So a lot of steps that earlier the CTO used to do and the CFO used to rely has gone or has undergone a change, where the CFO has now started attempting to understand the technology being deployed, what is it in the background, and how is it being done? The second aspect, as I said, is also to ensure that all compliances are met with. It's not about just doing what you do, but ensuring that there are no misses on the compliances. So that is how the CFO and CTOs, earlier experience of working together has strengthened a lot. And I think that will only see more strengthening in the future to come.
Neha and Amitesh, can I just take a little digression for 1 minute? I have something to share.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right, and if you permit me, I think this pandemic has given a new, more than a new normal, a more new view to us. When your enemy is unknown, you behave it in a different manner. Here, the enemy was unknown, and the answer was either life or death, which I think Vikash or Vijay has said: if I am alive, then I am alive. Otherwise, there is nothing. But let us look at that. Even in the Second World War, there were 5 years there were wars. World has come out of it, right? The travel and tourism was not there. The global trade was not there, right? But still world came up. And from 1945 till 2015, the world's CAGR is more than 12%. So over a period of 80 years. So it has happened. Number two, if you really look at on the other side, if you give flexibility to people, unlike the students, generally we all went to this classes. Like I was telling my wife this morning that I always hate my classes. Right? But look at the kids now today. They are not in a formal scenario of a class, at a flexibility. They are learning things differently. We are at our flexibility working. Even 3 years back, it was probably not so much. We had a flexible working time, but not flexible work parameters. I think we must look at this, particularly when Vijay said, I have a 3 weeks inventory. That's because that's the way we work. Tomorrow it may or may not be. I used to keep inventory, which probably for 60 days, but today it can be completely different. I think so. Opportunities are significantly higher if we think differently right now, and probably it can change the way the entire world working today, both politically, economically, and mankind. Sorry, I interrupted it because I thought that I will share my.
No, that was very insightful, Manas. Thank you for that. Neha, do you have more questions? Neha, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
So this question is being asked by a couple of people again and again. So I'm putting it up. Few steps that travel industry is taking to recover from the pandemic situation. I think this question is directly from Vikash, sir. I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's very tough, to be honest. For a travel provider, it's very tough. But they are taking number of actions. See, travel industry in general was a laggard, right? While there are a lot of things, in terms of adoption of technology, they were laggards. They use technologies which are 30 years old, 20 years old. While the new business models have evolved, new way of working is evolved, they have not upgraded the tech to the latest. Like if you go and talk to airline, if you tell them we are going to put a reservation system on a public cloud, they will not even talk to you, right? But now this now there's a scenario where they don't have people. Most of the staff that they have, they're on furlough, right? And they still have to operate their planes, right? Or let's say they have to operate their hotels. Now they realize that in a touchless environment, in a faceless environment, if they have to continue, move people and move cargo, these are the two main things that an airline does, right? Or even a ship line does. For them to be in that scenario, they have to really leapfrog into a completely next generation technologies, right? And they've realized the power of the next generation technology in terms of how they can continue to build customer loyalty, as well as sell their inventory, and also become a brand. See, airline is no more just an airline selling air tickets. They will sell you everything. They will sell you a loyalty point, which you can encash it with a gas station. They will sell you a hotel. They'll sell you a car rental. So end of the day, how do you leverage the entire brand in a completely hyper personalized world where you can disrupt the middlemen completely, go direct to the consumer, have a very high wallet share, and then grow your brand, and along with that you grow your market competitiveness along with margins, right? And all of that can be done through a very high digital platform. This realization is where it sits in the industry today. Today, they don't have money to spend, which is a reality. But once they're out of this, there is going to be a huge wave of spending that is going to take all of these players in the next stage. You will see the crew, the pilot, everybody carrying mobile devices on wherever they go. Everything is going to happen on mobile. And that's the direction in which the industry is going, which is the real exciting piece in this whole thing.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Amitesh sir. This is, I think,
Yeah,
I will not
no.
take over any more questions here.
No, but I really like the way we have been candid and we are sharing the experience, and that's the worth of having such an expert panelist. So I would just maybe quickly one liner from each of you, maybe as an advice to a younger CFO or young finance leaders, just to what do you think they should come up with? It could be personal, it could be something very generic, but what comes to your mind if you were to give an advice to your successor, to your team? Just a quick one-liners from each. Maybe Krishnan, if you can just start with.
Start learning technology. And so there are a lot of new technology that's coming up. For example, my son is with Whitehead Junior learning the coding classes. He's 7.5. I think getting into learning new things, learning technology, and also it's not about just learning, also implement it. Take up some small, deploy write robotic programs for small things like doing a bank reconciliation as an example. That gives you a lot of insight in terms of how the technology operates, and you can always cheer your teams, encourage your teams to go digital, to go the technology way, and do away with a lot of things that are being done manual.
Yeah, thank you, Krishnan. I think that's a very great point. And I think I'll just add upon in terms of learning. There was a situation when my team, like the people who manages the account payable, we have a very lean team because, as you can imagine, fund businesses don't have a very large team. And I have never ever uploaded a payment in my life on a banking site, which I had to do because there was urgent payment which has to go. And I learned how to upload payments. So I think that is something where we all have to step up and do what is required for the organization. And that can only come with if you are willing to learn. So thanks a lot, Krishnan. Manas, would you like to share some thoughts on that?
Yes, to the very young generation, next generation CFOs, I have only one liner. Learn the rule book well, but don't follow the rule book. Your rules are being challenged and changed every day. Create your own rules. Rules does not necessarily mean that I am saying somebody not to follow and make nonsensical things. I'm not talking that. Understand the rule, create your own rules. I think world has completely changed. The way our education system remained, majority of us here maybe trained accountants, but you just think of yourself that whatever we learned 10, 15, 20 years back, none of them are in existence anymore in the finance world. So what are we learning? What are we getting trained for? We are getting trained for only for the change. So learn rule book well, but don't give out of it. Change the rule. That will be my suggestion to the new generation finance profession.
I think that's very apt for the new generation because they always try to create their own rules. So you're kind of, pumping that up.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Vijay, just a quick one from your side.
Yeah. So I think, Manas rightly pointed out, even I wanted to tell the same thing, is that whenever I join a new company or in my existing company, I always think that this was being followed in the past. And at present, this is being followed. Is this right? I question that. So I feel that every CFO should question the existing one and try to, redefine and make sure that it is matching to the best practices, policies for the company. That is something that I want to urge, the new CFOs. The other thing is that always this pandemic has, made all of us realize is that health is important, So if you have your breath, you will be doing all other things after that. So, take care of yourself, be more fit, because, conventionally CFOs tend to, avoid having a fit and a healthy life. because of the pressures that we all go through. But it's just that we all need to, take out time for our own self and be fit both externally and internally. And the third last thing that I want to mention is that family is important at the end of the day. We realize that, we may lose jobs. We must have given 100 more, times to, our company and making sure that everything is done correctly. But this pandemic had made us realize that at the end of the day, what is important is your family is there with you. So spend more time, because either you may not be there or your family members may not be there. So I think all these three, if the new CFOs can balance it out in their roles, I think they would do a good job.
Yeah, thanks, Vikas. I think the points that you made in terms of making the balance between professional personal has even been, it's not been important as what it is right now. So thanks for touching on that. Vikas?
Yeah. So from me, it's not just for the young generation CFO. I think it's true for all of us. I think there are just two things for me, right? One is believe in karma and have hope. These are the two words for me, because karma is all about, how you have dealt with in your good times is going to define your bad times. If you've ran a very risky ship during the good times, you are going to sink when the things are going tough. And what you do in bad times is actually going to define how good your good times are going to last. So the action that you take during bad times, how you think, what you plan, what strategies you adopt, how do you become stronger, will actually help you remain good during good times. And hope is the biggest thing, right? Whatever has happened has happened. You don't need to worry about it. Think about the future. Be optimistic about the positives that come out of this entire scenario. Every scenario is good and a bad, right? Focus on the bad, focus on the good and manage the bad. That's really how you develop hope and optimism. And that really will help you push forward and do things very differently than how things were done in the past. I mean, if you were to think in these two lines, I think most of us will be all right.
Yeah, thank you, Vikas. So I think with this, I would like to thank each and everyone for their insightful thoughts, for sharing the experiences. And I'll just close by quoting Thomas Edison, where he says, if you run out of all possibilities, the most likely chances is you haven't. So the possibilities never end. And that's why we all know that he has failed maybe 100 times developing that bulb, but ultimately we saw what he did. And I think it is one of the most important innovations of our lives. So with that, I'll conclude this. I thank everyone, and I thank Corptive for organizing this. This has been an engaging session. This has been insightful for all of us and for all the attendees. So thank you so much. Over to you, Neha.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Amitesh sir, Krishnan sir, Vikas sir. We hope to get some good deals soon and we can start a travel soon, sir. And for this, I would like to go back to Manas sir, that we are waiting for the vaccine. Without that, we'll not be able to travel. So all up to you, and please push it up a bit more. And of course,
till the time Vijay will take care of us by his entertainment.
Yes, sir. In fact, as a viewer, I would like to say, Vijay sir, please increase this television data, because we cannot have this television shut. We need new episodes every day. We cannot have our televisions shut when we are here at home. So all thanks to you, and especially the panelists. Amitesh sir, I know I've been troubling you a lot, but so sorry. I'll be doing it same in the future as well. So you'll have to bear with me.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this insightful session, sir. We and the audience are all grateful to you. Thank you for joining us today. Now I would like to invite our panelists for our next panel discussion, cybersecurity concerns and resolutions from the CFO. The panel has some most popular speakers from different sectors. Our panelists for this panel discussions are Sandhya Sharma, CFO Schneider India; Vidhya Srinivasan, Executive and Director, CFO Puma; Mukesh Mundra, CFO Viacom 18; Sambasivan G, CFO Tata Sky. This panel is being moderated by Venkatraman G S, CFO Subex. With all our esteemed guests, now I would like to let Venkatraman to take over the panel discussion. Over to you, sir. Welcome, ma'am.
Hello.
Hello, ma'am. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. There has been a lot of following from Sandhya ma'am. So many likes, so many comments on the LinkedIn page.
Thank you. So Neha, it's not Schneider, it's Schindler.
Okay. So sorry. Thank you so
Okay.
much for the correction.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks.
So I think we have Venkat sir here. Sir, over to you now.
Yes, I am there. All right. So thank you, Neha. And good evening, panelists. So it's a pleasure to be part of this session. And I think the topic we are discussing today is cybersecurity concerns and the resolutions from the CFO. I think in the current world, I think there can't be a more, there can't be a topic which of greater interest. I think with all of us working from home with the pandemic, and it's been almost 6 months for all of us in terms of moving our working models and how companies operate and all the systems and processes, the way it works. So cybersecurity concerns are really of paramount interest for all CFOs of every company. And much as it is for the CFOs, it is also for the company CEOs and the CIOs who help put together the system and infrastructure for this to work. So I think it's a wonderful topic to discuss, and how the CFOs, how my co-panelists all coming from leading companies, how they're looking and addressing this is what we will discuss today. So I'll do maybe a quick round of introductions of the panelists we have today. We have Sambasivan from Tata Sky. He's the CFO for Tata Sky. And we have, and then we have Sandhya from Schindler. Sandhya is CFO for Schindler India. And then you have Mukesh from Viacom. Hi, Mukesh. And then we have Vidhya from Vidhya Srinivasan from Puma. Hi, Vidhya. So I think what I'll do is maybe go around the panel and ask a set of questions in terms of how they are looking at cybersecurity in their respective businesses. And then maybe we will follow it up with some related questions as we go along. So Mukesh, I'll start off with you. So Viacom is a large entertainment network company, and you're a fast growing company, and you've got a bunch of iconic brands which are across multiple platforms. So as an entertainment company in India, and obviously given the nature of the business, you touch a lot of people on a daily basis, given the nature of the different programs you air. So what are the kind of technology solutions you use to manage your business from cybersecurity and cybercrime? Because I'm sure this is one business which can be which is very susceptible to a lot of such attacks, and how do you manage your business in that front?
Yeah, I think you have rightly covered the information security risk, particularly for a company which has a lot of data. So we are ISO 27001 certified organization. That's a certification towards information security. So we use a judicious mix of on-premise as well as cloud data. It's not a blanket thing that for everything you will use cloud. So we use a judicious, because from a financial perspective also, see, cloud helps when you need access of data, when people are on move, and when you need a dynamic load of data. If you have a fixed load of data, in terms of overall cost and overall security, on-premise data storage works out to be a better. It is easy to control in terms of security as well. So we use mix of both, because the data is not certain that you will have X number of data throughout the period. So that's the first thing that we use, a mix of on-prem and on-cloud database. So I'll explain the process or philosophy which we follow in a simpler words. There are three things which we should look at when we are designing our information security. And without using jargons, I'll just put the first and foremost is when somebody is getting access to your network. That's the first level, because you should have a proper control that nobody unwanted access is given to your database. So we have standard firewalls, endpoint security, and those multiple tools which takes care of when somebody enters into our network. Even for cloud data security, the access is through on-prem network, you have to first log into your network, then only you will get access to cloud. So that the security, when somebody is entering into your house, you take care, you take proper control when somebody is entering. Then the next phase is when somebody has entered your house, you can access or database access within the network. Take example, some employee is sharing some data with another employee within the network. So we have multiple tools. Again, our security team uses multiple tools, advanced threat protection, machine learning capability, so that they know that, okay, on an average, this particular person takes care of 1 GB of data within the network. Now, all of a sudden, if it increases to 2 GB, then these are the threats. So somebody has to get into that and check what is there. Is there any suspicious activity? And the third one is what I would put it as, when a traffic is moving out of your network, when data is moving out, that is very critical. That is where we have, again, a full control. Multiple tools are being used by our IT team, as well as, again, machine learning, again, monitoring of suspectable threats, monitoring of traffic, triggers, all those things is being taken care. So what is very important is that you should be able to identify what are the various database and where it is staying, because that is very important thing. If you are able to document that these are the X number of data and these are the places where it is lying, then you will be able to control it.
All right. Thanks, Mukesh. So that brings me to Sambasivan. I think as Tata Sky, I'm sure you consume a lot of content which Mukesh's team produces, and also given the nature of Tata Sky's business, I always love, at least early days when Tata Sky used to come, I used to like that model where you charge your credit card and instantly you can see that you're able to start watching the particular channel which you're looking to watch, right? I think that technology is something which I used to always like. But having said that, so how do you see this? Because I think as CFO, I think how do you see cybersecurity concerns for the Tata Sky as a business, and what are the kind of things you are doing to manage and monitor this effectively? I'm sure there's a large technology team which is supporting you, but as CFO, what are your concerns, and then how do you look at it?
Yeah, thanks, Venkat. Actually, so we have a digitally, what you can say, a very savvy kind of an operation, so to say. So most of our operations are digitized, as you would expect, and we have very little manual processes. So that puts pressure on the IT department as a whole, in general. So particularly when this, for example, when this work from home happened, we had to make sure that all the security levels are made available at the home, so that when you are entering into a particular, say, SAP or any particular M Sales or M Service or mobile app or any of the applications, you needed to have that security so that no unauthorized usage is there. Like what Mukesh Mundra mentioned, that at the entry level, we have a lot of checks. Anybody cannot enter into our system. So that is standard firewalls are there. And in fact, we have put in when people are working from home. For example, I'm just giving a small example. If you want to get into a particular, say, say Tata Sky active services, where it's only available for Tata Sky employees, let us say, you are going to get into that. So we have made sure that there is at least one automated call which comes to the mobile number of that employee, and he has to just pick up the call and press hash so that we know that that's the person using it for some sensitive kind of apps. So that is done for every time. Sometimes it may be a little annoying, saying that I am an employee, I am getting into it, why am I getting a call? But that we have said that we have to do it because some sensitive information is available. So there's an additional filter we have put in, so that unless the call is answered from the mobile number, so we know that the mobile number and laptop are together. If both of them are stolen and it's operated by a third party, we can't help it. But here at least we have one counter check to say that the employee's mobile number and the employee's laptop are together. That is what we can ensure by such and such check. So cybersecurity is very important. And also we have a lot of our, what you can say, recharge. So millions of customers recharge through automated mode. So that is one area where I think there is a lot of potential for fraud. People can hack into the system and kind of make some fake recharges and transfer some money and all those things. So that is an area which we monitor on a very, very closely, because these are all also linked with the banks. At the back end, they are all linked with the bank. So the money has to be paid by the customer. It has to be collected by the aggregator. Then it goes to the bank, whether he's making through whatever route, whether it is Paytm or whether it is free cash. So you have to make sure that nothing is hacked on the way. So it's very important that we don't lose money in the bargain. So in the past, maybe I'm talking 4 or 5 years back, we had lost some money because of somebody hacking into the system, and we lost a few lakhs of rupees. But now we have put in all systems and controls, and it's an important reconciliation for us. The cash reconciliation, the recharge is another important reconciliation from the cyber security. The third one I would talk about is the data security, the customer data. We have access to a lot of customer data, right? So what is the kind of channel they have using, what is their mobile number, what is their address, because that's a huge database and millions of customers databases there. So that data privacy and data security is very, very important. We cannot allow somebody to just hack into the system and take the database. That is like, it's the treasure of the company, right? So that's another area where we feel that there's a lot of work which is going on, and we have a lot of what you can say filters around the data privacy, and nobody can enter and get into the master database. That's the other thing. With GDPR coming in, it's becoming all the more important. The next parliament session, I think for India as well, it is going to become law. Then it becomes all the more important. Even for removing any data, I have to now ask the customer, get the approval, and say that, okay, can I remove this data? Can I not remove this data? So everything has to be done through consent. So that becomes even more, I would say, onerous, rightly so. So these are the three top of the mind topics which we are looking at. Yes, data security is very important, and cyber security is an important piece. And we all are, apart from technology team, all the functions are completely glued on to the data security aspect. That's from me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ramachandran. That was useful. So maybe we'll move on to Sandhya, to a completely different industry. I think we have looked at two industries that are kind of related, which is entertainment, but I think Sandhya is from an industry which is more infrastructure oriented, I would call it. I think Schindler is in the business of making escalators, elevators, which is used in all kinds of it could be in offices, it could be in shopping complexes, it could be in it could be even with residentials, I believe. So how do you look at it? How do you look at it in your business, cybersecurity concerns, and what are the kind of things which you are doing to address and manage this on an ongoing basis? I think you're on mute, Sandhya. You may have to unmute yourself.
Sorry. So let me start by saying that we are monitored mainly on all the cybersecurity rules by our group guidelines. So our group is Swiss based, and that's why they're very much, I would say, extra careful about cybersecurity. Although it is an elevator escalator business, but the customer engineers who touches our elevators are only those who are employed by Schindler. So we do not allow an subcontractor to go and touch our elevator unless there is a presence of Schindler employee. So that's absolutely not allowed. All the service engineers have iOS based app, and they are all given iPhones, and the group has not moved from iOS based app to Android, and the primary concern is cybersecurity. They want to be sure that there's no information leaked and everything is kind of taken care. So all our customer engineers have iPhones, and they have all iOS based software to track all the devices. I would say in terms of office connectivity or connectivity to Schindler space, there are no other than Schindler owned devices allowed to connect. So this kind of takes care of the inflow in the system. And as rightly mentioned by Sambasivan also, we also have a kind of lot of information of KYC documentation from our customers taken. But we follow GDPR rules as it is. We do not ever share that information with anyone. So although GDPR is yet to come to India, in Schindler, we are following it already. In terms of, I would say, SAP environment and other things, I was in an Indian company earlier, and I had never seen that download access is also restricted. So it is need to know information always followed. So it is not that everyone can download information from SAP, because it's like my portfolio information is there in SAP. Anyone can download it and share it. So that's also restricted in our organization. Definitely mails and other things are controlled. We also, like Sambasivan mentioned about payment gateway, Schindler has its own payment gateway, Schindler Pay, which can be used by our customers, and it has been identified by the asset as the best secured payment gateway in 2020. So this was a good the good achievement for the team. I would come then to the product. The product also is a PCB run product, and if someone hacks into the PCB, they can make a PCB and kind of maintain the elevator, which becomes a threat to us indirectly. Not a direct cybersecurity concern, but an indirect one. And over there also we ensure that all these units, when they are there, they are connected through a cube to Schindler. We have started it, and then we are ensuring that stage wise we will cover all our portfolios, and they will talk to our head office based system. So I know that every connected unit is within the Schindler space, and there's no one intruding into the system. So from product basis also, although it is a vertical transportation, till now not much, I would say, advanced elevators were coming. It was more on look and feel and the travel speed. But now in terms of technology, there are quite a lot of new nuances coming in. Like now you have a door show which Schindler has introduced. So while you're waiting for an elevator, you can see a screen and you can see your advertisement running through it. So all those things will now kind of, we have just started. Probably they may lead to new cyber challenges, which we are yet to see. But I hope that the group systems will take care of it. Thank you, Venkat, from my side.
Thanks, Sundar. I think interesting. I think I heard some very interesting points. I've never heard a company which is purely on iOS just to ensure security related needs. So that was a very interesting insight. And the fact that you mentioned about iOS security, maybe we'll talk about it a little later. So I think Subex has a security which is addressed primarily for IoT security devices. So maybe I will touch upon that a little bit later. But interesting, I think the way you're looking at it and the kind of solutions. Maybe I think with all the pandemic now, you need to have touch-free elevators, I'm sure, so that people have to come and stand in front of the elevator.
Yes.
So maybe there's a technology element out there which will have its own set of challenges. So we'll now move to Vidhya. I think Vidhya is part of a popular brand. I think a lot of us do use Puma and Puma's products. As you know, Puma is into sports footwear, apparel, and accessories. And they have obviously it's a retail business, so they have a number of stores across the country, at present in almost 125 cities, and a lot of point of sale equipments which are there in each of these stores. So what are the kind of challenges you deal with as a CFO? How do you look at the cybersecurity concerns you have for the business, and what kind of, how are you managing it, and what kind of new practices are you looking to adopt?
Right. See, I think two things. One is, of course, we have a large retail business as well as a large e-commerce business. And therefore, the security challenges are different for each of these businesses between brick and mortar and e-commerce. Brick and mortar side, we of course have very clear views on what the point of sale equipment should contain, whether it be in our own stores or franchisee stores. We enforce standards of what should be the access, and then we make sure that the pipe that transmits data between the stores to our server in HO, and then from our HO to the global is fully protected end to end. We also ensure that other data, we have Cisco Meraki implemented. So I think we do the standard protocols that most retailers do. And obviously being a German company, we work pretty closely with our global team, who kind of are constantly looking at what are the latest developments that are happening from a crime standpoint. On the e-commerce side, it's a more complicated engine because obviously our entire setup is open and accessible to the public. And therefore we have challenges which are, things like, distributed denial of service attacks, where the website is getting flooded by requests from an untraceable IP address, things like that. So that, of course, we kind of have firewall systems, intrusion detection systems to ensure that, we address those attacks. We also have, mechanisms whereby, like, for example, one of the other things that can happen is, of course, price scraping bots, which anyway we can't do anything about because, it's open and accessible to the public. One piece that we do cover very carefully is, the people who are authorized to upload pricing information, discount offer information to marketplaces. We protect how that channel works, and we have controls around that. Apart from that, of course, one big piece of financials that, the other panelists had also touched upon is, of course, we have refunds that kind of operate, which, and we have to ensure that the right credit, etc., is given to the right parties. I think one big challenge that happens for popular retail brands is around fake URLs and fake products. And I think that is something, the more popular a brand becomes, the more this proliferates. And, we actually have like a set of people who are constantly reviewing, websites and marketplaces to kind of access that information. Because one is, of course, fake products itself, which is an IP issue that we deal with. And I think most marketplaces are very supportive, and there is a clear process by which we can identify and pinpoint those information. But also fake URLs where they're really trying to get hold of customer information. The final thing, which is obviously the biggest risk, which is happening now increasingly, I find, is phishing, where, and I think there are cases which have been reported, where people are writing to you as, the global CFO or somebody senior from within the organization and asking for access to information or saying some very important file structure has gone through. And I think at least in the last 2-3 years, I find those attempts are becoming increasingly sophisticated. So I think that is something, again, that, so there, I think the biggest thing that we have to do is for training. So there is a huge emphasis on repeated training that happens to kind of tell people that, we sometimes even have, our global CFO writing to people saying, I want this information, and seeing whether people actually respond to that, request without checking. So, that involves a lot of culture, mindset change and training that we keep doing.
Great, thanks, Vidhya. I think that is useful. I think in particularly with e-commerce, I think the number of exposures you have, particularly around the data, in terms of the kind of data you have with your customers and the kind of attacks you can have on your website, commerce website, can be huge. So obviously a number of challenges to face. So maybe I'll also touch upon cybersecurity from the Subex perspective. Subex, as you know, is a telecom company, and we telecom software product company. We have a software product which is used by all the large telecom operators worldwide. And if you see two things, right? Because we are our products are such that it pretty much helps the finance functions of all these large telecom companies to manage their revenue leakage, fraud, and related solutions. So we do have access to a lot of data of the telecom customers flowing through our product solutions. So therefore, similar challenges like some of the other panelists mentioned in terms of how do we ensure that the data is secure, and how do we also comply with all the GDPR and other regulations, because we're present in pretty much all the large geographies, be it we're present in Asia, Africa, Middle East, Europe, and US. So we have presence in all of these countries. So that how do you ensure that we have the right kind of controls in place? So that's something which we constantly look at and ensure that our data centers and wherever the information is stored, wherever we do have access to information, it is secure, and there is nobody who doesn't need to have accessing this information. So that's one thing we do. And I think I touched on that briefly as Sandhya was mentioning. So we also have an IoT security solution. So what we have done is, what we have realized is there's a lot of IoT related services which have proliferated over the years, and everybody wants to offer IoT solutions, be it for a connected car, or it is a manufacturing supply chain, or it could be a product like a refrigerator. You can have an IoT device sitting within it and then providing you all kinds of insights in terms of when do you do a preventive maintenance, or when is your next service due for a car, or what kind of issues are happening, or a navigation system which can be used. But all of them are exposed to the network, because by nature, since these devices have the ability to collect data, which means they need to be connected to the internet, which means it can be hacked into at any given point in time. So what Subex has done is built a solution which, a security solution, which helps any of these devices not being attacked. So what we have done is we've kind of researched this over a period of time, and we exposed a number of IoT devices to the internet, and a lot of hackers keep trying to hack these devices when it is open. So we're able to get those signatures and build a security solution where these devices can be secured. But what we also realized is, because we are providing the security as a solution, we used to do a lot of these surveys. So during this pandemic, interestingly, a lot of these, a lot of countries, particularly countries like India, US, and some of the other European countries, a lot of the increase in cyber attacks went up during this period, during the pandemic. So it was very interesting, and a lot of these government establishments and all were targeted. So it kind of gives you an understanding of a psyche of how the people are looking to attack different establishments, what they are looking to do, and why are they looking to do. So that also helped us provide that insights to multiple corporates, so that they can also get a sense of which of their products and solutions are vulnerable, and therefore they need to protect themselves, right? So I think that's something which I just want to touch upon, given from a Subex perspective. So maybe the next question I would kind of put it open to all of the panelists. So what are the kind of, so I think if you look at cybersecurity, I think for all CFOs, it's and a lot of CFOs worldwide call it out as pretty much their number one priority, given the nature of the business. And I think in India, given there are so many other issues the CFO has to deal with, it may or may not necessarily be the number one priority, but I'm sure it is in your top 5 or top 10 of items to do. So how do you see cybersecurity from an overall business perspective, and what are the things you are looking to do, or what are the new things you are looking to do? So Mukesh, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Venkat. See, what I tell my team is, so to begin with, like within finance also, because besides the all PII data which is stored by the IT team, most sensitive data is your finance related. Even Mr. Sambasivan also touched that when your financials are happening. So what I team is that whoever is handling, because we all are handling large teams and everyone is doing their own job. What you look at, you become the bad boy and see that how this data can be manipulated. Just take an example. In nowadays, everything is happening on online payments. So even bank payments are through batch file. Now there are like many organizations which have a policy. You will take and file download from your ERP, and that file will be uploaded onto bank platform. Now, what happens if that file, somebody just open that file, changes his account number and puts it again onto bank platform? Very easy. We don't realize. So I think what is very important is you look at each and every information, what is flowing through and how it can be manipulated. So like Vacuum, none of the payment goes without a H2H facility where nobody has any control over manipulated. So once a payment is run from ERP, it directly goes on to a secure FTP portal. From there, it is picked up by the bank. So we'll have to look at each and every information piece which is available. Now there could be like, this is what I have given as example of finance. Take a sales team is working on a confidential proposal to a client. When they are accessing the proposal from their phone and sending it, it can be misused. So that's what you have to get. So what is very critical is that how do you identify what are the pieces of information which is there and how they are moving. If you are able to capture that, then probably you will be able to put a system around that.
Sure.
See, all these lapses happen when you have some loophole or some plug is to be plugged. So if you are able to identify and document, then your IT system will be able to take care of that.
Sure. Interesting. So sometimes you have any thoughts on this?
So what we do is that, as Mukesh mentioned, we do have a policy. We do have a data security policy. We do have a cyber security policy. We keep on, I think the IT department keeps on sending mails once every month or so. They keep sending mails, a portion of it saying that, do you know this? Do you know that? Don't do this. Don't open any mail which comes in, any link. Please do not open this because there could be some virus, some data hacking may be happening. So we keep doing that all the time. That is point number one. And also we have a mechanism as to, for example, in our laptops, everybody's laptops, so you cannot store information and take out the information because there is no drive attached to it. So they are all devoid of any extra pen drive. You cannot even fix it. Meaning there is no socket for putting there. Actually, no placeholder for that. So that is one. For example, if any mails are sent to your personal ID, sometimes some people may send some of their official mail to personal IDs. So those are monitored. Then immediately a message goes to the boss saying that, okay, this has been done. Please find out what it is. So we have kind of put various checks and balances to make sure that the data is not sent outside, particularly all the sensitive data, financial data and all. We have certain password protection rules, certain things are to be password protected. So those kind of things which we have. But still you never know. Sometimes we find that suddenly some information of a particular product which you want to launch next week gets out into media suddenly saying that Tata Sky is going to launch this product. Then we go around helter-skelter saying that, okay, what's happened? How did it leak? Where did it leak from? Which is the source? So those kind of things do happen. But those are now few and far between because the secrecy is very important for any particular product. If it's transparent, then you lose the advantage, right? So that is something which we are quite conscious of. Yes, we keep doing a lot of things. The last one I would say is that we are also getting an external agency. We just have started working on an external agency like one of the big four to come and study our data security and cyber security and see what are the potential vulnerabilities. Sure. Apart from the normal internal audit and the statutory audit, we are trying to, we have not yet done, but we are now just started working on appointing an agency for doing a vulnerability audit. That's something which we have to,
yeah, the number of companies do this vulnerability assessments.
Assessment.
That's something which a lot of companies do, and I think it's important. And of course, there's DLP solutions, data leak prevention solutions. Also help. So, Sandhya, any thoughts in terms of how anything different you're doing in Schindler?
I would say a culmination of all. So it's also, as rightly mentioned by Vidya, about the training. So we have payment no-goes, always host-to-host platform for banking solutions and all those things. I would say also in the whole part, it is enforcing the code of conduct of the organization. So I have my salespeople giving a quote every now and then for an elevator. So I can control the system, but I cannot definitely control his WhatsApp totally. Now with the pandemic, things are moving around. So it is more on how do you ensure that the code of conduct is instilled in each and every employee, how rigorously the training is done. Because as they say, the best of the systems can be made. But if there's an employee who's not keeping the conscience, anything can go wrong. So we are trying to work around that as well. Of course, the cybersecurity rules, everyone everyone tries to do their best. Most of us are MNCs, so definitely they are very, very aware about this. But just one thought: has anyone taken insurance for cybersecurity crimes if happens?
Yes, we do have.
Yes, so that's one thing which I realized few of them do not take it, and that's a big
that's a valid point.
Concern if someone is not dwelling into it. So that's one area where I want everyone to be careful in the new age. Thank you. Nothing else from my side.
Very good point. That's a very good point to make, Sandhya. I think cybersecurity covers are also becoming expensive. I think with more and more attacks happening, I think cybersecurity covers are also becoming expensive. But I think given the nature of the business, all of us are in with all the data and the amount of exposure we have, it is required, and I'm sure most companies do. And if you're not, I think you should consider. Maybe
cyber insurance, I think, is mandatory. It's a very good point.
Very good point.
It's kind of mandatory, I would say.
Sometimes what companies do is it's like a carve out of your existing policy. But I think now more and more companies have now realized that it makes sense to have a separate cybersecurity policy. You not be a carve out of your existing.
You can go application by application. Actually, each of these you can insure separately.
So Vidya, thoughts from you? What are the kind of things you're doing differently from Puma's perspective?
I think we've covered most elements over here. I think one of the things that we are doing is to kind of be aware of what's happening outside. So we, this vulnerability assessment we've been doing for the past few years, but we've also kind of been, we also engage with people to kind of train us quite periodically on what are the latest, innovative things. Because, while I think companies still tend to be passive, compared to, the people who are actually committing the crimes, they are very, very ahead of us. And I think it's important to kind of be scanning the environment at all points in time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. I think the fraudsters are always one step ahead, right? So you're playing catch up most of the time. And I think, for example, I realized during this pandemic,
because it's not our core job, right? That's their core job. They should be good at it.
True. And I think what I realized during the pandemic, I'm sure it happens in many of your companies as well. You get those messages, right? There's an email which is from an email which is very similar to your CEO's ID or a senior person's ID, sending to a finance guy saying that you need to make this payment urgently. That is confidential. So I've seen that suddenly go up in my company during this pandemic period. So I think people also try to time it based on when you see there's an opportunity for such attacks to happen. While I think, and the only solution for this, despite the best technology solutions you can put in place, is to train people so that they know how to look for such emails and then be aware of and not get caught into this. So I think, thank you, panelists. I think very interesting discussion. So Neha, any questions which you have, which is there for us, which we can take? Neha?
She's on mute. Neha, you are on mute.
Yeah, you're there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Yeah, so any questions you have for us? Which
Sir, yes, sir, there is a question coming up. How do we prevent taking pics of info on computer screen?
So anyone of you want to take this, Vidhya?
I think in my, whatever I know, it is very difficult to capture, but since there's a lot of content which is there on the OTT apps and all those things. So what lot of apps which do, even like Woot, which is our app also, when you take a screenshot, it comes blank. Or when you run a screen recorder and then take or run any program, it doesn't allow you to run. So those kind of security features are there. Here, I think it will have to be a simpler privacy screen, because as we had discussed earlier also, if somebody is intention is to misuse it, it would be very difficult. Then we have to look at that what is there on the screen, how much data you can take it in one screen. Because nowadays we are talking of GBs of data being managed. At least I believe it would be very difficult to control.
Yeah.
I agree with Mukesh.
Typically, there are technology solutions which prevent copy paste. For example, you can prevent copy paste of any of those kind of things. Technology solutions available, but somebody phone or a camera and takes a picture of what is appearing on the screen. There is no simple solution. But I think if it is within the app, as you rightly said, Mukesh, maybe there are solutions to that. But if somebody's out to take a picture of a screen, there are not too many solutions to address it. Yeah.
So most of the banks, when you log into your net banking, you will not be able to do a right click.
Yeah.
They decide a right click, as you have rightly said. Those are there, but yes, technology has not yet evolved, because then you are talking of somebody physically monitoring whatever you are doing.
Which is why some companies, what they do, given the nature of their business, they don't allow camera phones to be taken to their workplace. But now with the current scenario, you can't even talk about it, right? Everybody is working from home. So what do you prevent and what do you not?
So it becomes difficult during town hall meetings.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful as to what all we are putting in the town hall meeting. And my CEO keeps requesting, saying that please don't take pictures of this slide. That's all he can do, right? Somebody violates that and takes a picture, then you are betraying the trust which the organization has posed on you. So we believe in trusting people, actually. Yeah, but sometimes we don't know, right?
So another question, sir. Yeah, is there some technology to automate timesheets in a professional service organization?
Yeah, I can take that, and I'm sure anyone else can also answer. So I think there are a number of solutions available for timesheets to be automated. Because I think in more services organizations, IT services organizations, not only is it the timesheet of that particular company. If you're working for customers, some customers want you to submit timesheet in their format, in the way they would want it to be done. So then effectively what happens in many services organizations, the individuals have to fill timesheets twice. They have to put their individual company's timesheet system and also in the customer's timesheet system. So there are ways where you can port information from one timesheet application to another. So there are solutions available. So I think it's a question of you looking around. There are solutions available, and if you have a reasonable IT team, your IT team can also develop that, because it's not a very complex solution. It's just to understand what are the parameters you need to map and then build a solution. So it's not that difficult to my mind.
I think there is a potential for an AI-based thing also, as like whatever thing you are working on, and if it is linked to a particular client, it automatically tracks that also.
Oh yeah.
Most of the software companies, these kind of feature are also there, like based on my discussion. So when you are working on somebody else's system, it is, or the time sheet is automatically taken care, because the system recognizes that you are working on next client.
That's all, I think, sir. These are the two questions that we were looking forward to it. Any closures from your end, sir? Of course.
No, I think so. Thank you, Neha, for organizing this. Thank you to Corptive to set this up. And thank you to the panelists. I think it was a wonderful discussion. I really enjoyed it, and it was good spending time discussing the different initiatives each of you are doing. And I got some very good insights. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Venkat sir, Vidya ma'am, Sandhya ma'am, Mukesh sir, Sambasivan sir, and of course the audience. And we are grateful to the panelists and the audience to come over and giving your, especially your insights. And this was a very insightful session that we had. Thank you to all the panelists as well as the moderator. And now with this, we come to an end of the closure of the event. We are thankful to all our speakers for taking out time to speak at this webinar. And I know they all are very busy professionals. Even 10 minutes of your time matters a lot for us. And this was one of the webinar in finance sector, and the immediate big contribution from there, and the response that we got from the panelists, all the panelists and the moderators, keynote speakers. A very big thank you to all of you for having this successful event. We would also like to thank the audience to come over here. And if there are any questions, then please contact us at info@corptive.com. We'll get back to you soon. The entire webinar recording and its minutes will be available to you via email and on our website. Please feel free to download the link, and it will be sent to you by the email as well. Thank you once